Thank you, Erin, and thank you all for having me here today. It's really an honor to be here. And I have to give a shout out to my husband, Jordan Strassburger, who is a Shady Academy class of 97, and couldn't be here today. Couldn't be more disappointed that he couldn't be here today back on campus. His sister, his father, and his grandfather are also graduates of Shady Academy, so I'm proud to represent the Strassburger alums of Shady Academy today. So quick show of hands. How many of you are old enough to vote, are eligible voters? Great, okay. How many of you are registered to vote? All right, give your classmates a round of applause. That's awesome. That's great. Now, of those who are not yet eligible to vote because of age, how many of you have gotten involved in some way in a campaign or with a candidate or volunteered or gotten involved in some way or another? All right, I see some hands. Give those students a round of applause. That's great. So it just so happens that, and Erin didn't know this when she invited me, but my first job out of college was to energize, register, and get out the vote for young people all across the state of New Hampshire. The campaign was called the New Voters Project. It still exists. It's out there today. And the catchphrase was, make them pay attention to us. The theory was that young people weren't really voting at the same rates as seniors, in part because politicians were more likely to discuss issues that seniors cared about, like Medicare and retirement benefits. And that was because seniors outvoted young people 2-1, creating this vicious cycle that would only be broken if more young people voted. So let me just back up a little bit and give some context. When I was in high school, not to date myself, but Bill Clinton was in office. The country was experiencing relatively peaceful times and the economy was stable. I paid some attention to national politics, but I admit I knew very little about who represented me at the local level, at the state level, even who my US representative was. And one of the biggest complaints I heard about young people in high school and in college at that time was that we were politically apathetic. We weren't getting out there, we weren't active. Our parents recall the days of marching in the streets, fighting for their rights, and they wondered what had happened to make their kids care so little. Well, clearly a lot has changed since then. Young people once again feel that they are directly impacted by the decisions that are made by their elected officials. Your generation is making your voice heard and leading the way on issues ranging from gun control and climate change to free speech and fiscal responsibility. And elected officials are paying attention. They really are. Social media means you can better control the way that you receive and disseminate information. You know, when I was in high school, we had beepers, so we didn't have social media. As digital natives, you have mastered the social media in a way that no generation above you has, and that's powerful. And then I think third, the face of candidates is changing. People running for office now are more likely to be younger, they're more likely to be female, they're less likely to be white, they're less likely to be straight, less likely to be cisgendered, and when I was a student. So this means that no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, it is increasingly likely that you can find someone running for office that looks like you. And that makes a big difference. Now, we have a big election coming up in less than 6 weeks, and the voter registration deadline is coming up even sooner. Whether or not you're able to vote in this next election, I challenge each and every one of you to do a few things. First, speak with the people around you, your friends, your parents, your neighbors, your relatives, about your vision for the future, for your community, for your state, your country. What do you care about most? What are the issues that really get you going? Issues can be just as much of a motivator to get people involved as candidates can be. Second, when you can, try to spend time with people with different perspectives and ideas and political leanings. Ideally face-to-face rather than online. Just from personal experience, it's a little bit friendlier, a little bit nicer. Ask questions and listen, and rather than trying to win a debate with them, dive in and find out where you might share some common ground. You'll likely be surprised. Our country desperately needs to relearn how to engage with opposing perspectives without devolving into vicious ad hominem attacks or shouting matches. Most adults you see on TV are not your role models in this regard. I'm hopeful that young people can play a major role in changing the tone of these types of conversations in the future. Third, learn who represents you, from your mayor and your city council member all the way up to your US representatives and senators. Presidential elections might get all the attention, but let me tell you from personal experience, your local and state elected officials make many more decisions that affect the quality of your life than presidents do. Get to know your elected officials. Follow them on social media, subscribe to their newsletters, and when they do something you like or disagree with, email or call or visit them. Remember, they are public servants. They are there to serve you. If they seem difficult to access or act like they don't want to hear from the public, then they should not be in public office. Also, don't forget about the judges. They might not be able to campaign, but in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, judges are elected, and they are incredibly influential on many decisions that affect the average person. And of course, lastly, register to vote, and then get out to the polls. If you can, mobilize others to do the same. If you're not yet old enough to vote, that doesn't mean you can't still work on a campaign. Find a candidate you like, see how you can volunteer. Door knocking might sound like some people's worst nightmare, might be the last thing you want to do on a nice autumn afternoon, but let me tell you, it's really fun. And when you're finished talking to all these nice voters and hearing what they care about, not only feel like you can do anything in the world, you feel invincible, but you feel like you've made a real difference because you have. That is one of the most important things that any elected official, any candidate would like to see, is people talking to other people on the ground. So I'd like to close with one of my favorite quotes, one that I have on the wall in my office. I hope Theodore Roosevelt purists won't object too much if, for the purposes of my reading it today, I change a few words to make the quote slightly less gendered, bring it up to the 21st century. It's not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong one stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fails while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So I challenge you, be the one who gets involved. Be the one in the arena. Strive valiantly, dare greatly. And when it comes to the elections, get out there and vote. I'll look forward to seeing you at the polls on Election Day. Thank you so much.